This is Phone Sales 101, how to conduct a successful leasing phone. So our goals, we want to make an appointment to tour. We want to obtain contact information. We want to make sure we show our personality while we build rapport with the caller. And we want to make sure that we are the salesperson and we lead the call while we determine the customer's needs. So it starts with the greeting. We answer the phone. We need to make sure we're smiling, that we're professional, but that we're enthusiastic. And you just really can tell when somebody is genuinely happy versus, hi, how are you, hello, versus if you're smiling, hi, thank you for choosing the Edge. How can I help you? It just makes all the difference. So greeting is important, and it's important that you stop everything you're doing. We don't want any multitasking so that we can give the customer our full attention and really cherish every lead. So right off the bat, the caller is going to ask a question they're calling. And make sure, though, that you ask for their name at the very beginning before you start answering their questions, and then it becomes, more awkward in the middle to just ask their name. So, for example, if they call and say, hi, I would like to hear prices on 3 bedrooms, I would say, I would love to help you with that. Can I get your name? And then you establish that right off the bat and try to use their name a few times during the call. It really just makes all the difference of starting to build that rapport with the customer. So game time card. We call this our guest card a game time because once that phone rings or once somebody walks in the door, it's game time. Everything else is dropped. It's time to focus on this customer and really cherish this lead. So our game time cards are on the file library. Some people are comfortable typing everything into lead to lease directly, but I recommend, especially for anybody that's new, that you do still use the game time card because I have written on here verbiage to help you keep the proper flow of the conversation, as well as make sure you're hitting all the important points. And this game time card is definitely for internal use. So that's definitely just for our Horizon staff. It's not meant to be handed to the customer. And if you do have a really busy office and you can't do a personal guest card with everybody, then I do have a version on the file library that is a simplified guest card that won't, have the verbiage on here of how to ask the questions. And, wouldn't say lead to lease and those kinds of things. So, again, just having this game time card next to you as well as using this to practice, it really, really helps to make the difference. First getting their name, then asking how soon do you need an apartment? What size apartment? How many people will this be for? Why are you moving? These are good questions that are worded properly in order to listen to the customer, to hear what really their needs are, as well as be able to then, sell the property, because first we need to determine all their needs. Because you want to make sure that you don't just right off the bat start talking about the property without determining their needs. Because you could be talking about things that are not important to them and you can start to lose the caller's interest. But if you, first ask, what are the most important things in your new apartment home? Then that is open-ended. You can let them talk, and you really hear what's important and what you want to focus in on during your phone call. So by taking control, don't ask random questions without you being able to control some of the flow of it. Just like you would when you are touring in person. You want to be the salesperson. You want to be in front of them. You want to take them on the tour versus letting them kind of run wild and check things out on their own. So throughout everything, throughout your game time card, you are trying to build rapport with this person. So anything you can grab onto that you have some kind of common ground, you know, if it's a student housing property, ask them what their neighbor is or where they're moving from, or if you notice their area code is somewhere you know about, or what their profession is if they mention that, or if they mention they have a pet. I really like to talk about their pets. So just trying to grab on to anything you can throughout the call to start building some rapport and, you know, really showing that you genuinely care about the customer and their needs and what they're looking for, and you're going to help them, you know, and how your property can best fit their needs. So you're kind of getting into then the who, when, what, and why. And you want to try to have other questions answered before you just give out the price. Because a lot of callers are going to try to just get the price right off the bat without giving, you know, that doesn't give you an opportunity to building a rapport, to really determine their needs and to be able to sell the property. If you just give, you know, the price right off the bat and they think it's high and then they, you know, want to hang up. So mentioning the source, because it's important that we collect how they heard about our property. You know, we need to know what is working for our marketing dollars and what we can stop focusing on and what we can double. So making sure you ask how you heard about the property, and if they just say, oh, I found you online, try to ask another question to get a little bit more detail of where online, because that could be any source. And that, of course, is on your game time card also to remind you. I kind of touched on this, using the tell me technique, tell me what you're looking for in your apartment home, or what are the most important things to you in your new apartment home, you know, letting them speak before you go on to sell, you know, some of your favorite amenities of the property or your favorite aspects when you haven't listened yet to what is important to them. And again, have you been to the property before, or have you seen the inside of an apartment? These are really important things to find out, because you're going to you would completely change how you're talking to them about the community if they've been there before versus if they're out of town and they've never been there. So just really making sure you determine their needs. So amenities, making sure that you point out any amenities that are important to them. So if they say, when you ask them what are the most important things to them, and they say, well, I really want somewhere that is near campus, that has a workout facility, and, you know, that has roommate matching. Well, those are perfect things for you to, you know, jump on to explain, because you can offer all of those. And if they had never mentioned, you know, fitness center, and they had mentioned, I really want somewhere where I can study, and you're talking about the parties and the events that you hold and the pool and the hot tub, you know, you're probably selling yourself right out of this contract, because you're painting a picture that is not what they're looking for. So location, you know, if that's one of your main selling points, make sure you talk about your location. Utilities is often forgotten sometimes, and that's a big selling point for some properties. Probably not for the conventional ones, but some student ones, that's a big selling point on including utilities. So as you've gone through filling out your game time card and determining their needs and feeling like you're building some rapport, it's time to set an appointment. And this is really important because, again, you want the customers to come in to tour. You don't want to just give them the price and then hang up and never hear from them again. So trying to set an appointment is very, very important. We never want to say, oh, our office hours are 9 to 6, just come in anytime. That's like the worst thing we can do, because people get busy. It's just natural, and they're not going to just come in. We want to actually set an appointment with a date and time so they feel more, you know, they'll be more likely to stick to that. So I always like to give an option versus saying, would you like to make an appointment? I like to say, could you come in and tour today. Does afternoon or morning work better for you? You know, I have a 10:30 a.m. or I have a 2 p.m. available, and then go from there. So you can kind of narrow down what is the best time for them. And then if they're out of town or they can't make an appointment, then you can always offer to, you know, send them a virtual tour, send them photos, you know, explain to them that you can submit an application online and we can do everything from afar if it's not possible to actually come into the office. So now you have your appointment, and don't forget to offer directions to the property. I know that, you know, a lot of us just take that for granted now because we use our phone and navigation for everything, but it's still nice to ask if they need directions and to offer some assistance, especially if, you know, you're at a conventional property with some customers who might not be as savvy with navigation. So always asking if they need help with directions to the property. And then, you know, by this point you've gone through all the guest card, you've built some rapport, you've determined their needs as well as sold the property and created some urgency to get this caller excited about coming in for their appointment. And so hopefully you haven't had to give out the rates, because if you have, then, you know, that's okay, but hopefully you're able to make that appointment. Ideally, I should say, you should be able to make that appointment without going into the specials and rates. If they do continue to ask, then obviously you don't want to make them mad and you tell them, but make sure you pair it with urgency. We don't want to just give out the rates and let them, you know, get off the phone. We want to still make sure that there's a sense of urgency with associated, you know, with the floor plan they're looking for and with the rate, or if there's any kind of special going on. So concluding the call, reiterate your, you know, your appointment date, and by now you should have gotten all their guest card information. But if you haven't, make sure you don't get off the phone before you get their contact information. So just say, I'm looking forward to you tomorrow at 2 p.m. for our tour. What's the best contact phone number for you in case anything changes? And then also, I like to email a summary right after kind of what you went over and about your property. So I say, I know we went over a lot today. I'll send you a summary of everything. What's your email address? So then both of those, you know, last two pieces, which are very important to obtain that contact information. Otherwise, we can't follow up with them. So it's really important to get those, and you're asking for the information, and you're posing it in the viewpoint of you're giving them something in return. You're not just saying, what's your phone number, what's your email? You're offering them something that is of value to them. And it's true, usually, I mean, a solid phone sales call is at least 5 minutes, and you've gone over a lot. And some people, they need to talk to their spouse or their roommate or their parents, whoever it might be, and it will be very helpful to have kind of a summary of what you went over, especially if they're calling multiple properties, because then they just start to run together and it's hard to remember kind of what you liked about each one. So make sure that you collect that contact information, and then you send them that summary right after you get off the phone so that you make sure that doesn't get forgotten. So post-call, make sure you finish entering in the information into lead to lead, and then save that guest card, and then you send that summary. And I like to include links to the website, a link to a video, maybe some photos. If it's a student property, definitely a link to any social media, you know, your contact information, and also, again, putting in their appointment date and time. So that, in a nutshell, is a successful leasing call. Let's talk about some other phone tips, some miscellaneous ones. So if you have to place the caller on hold, always ask the caller for permission and wait for the response. And just instead of saying, sorry, let me put you on hold, and then click, say, do you mind if I place you on hold, and wait for the response. And then really try to be quick, because, you know, we are in the day and age of wanting everything now and everything quickly. So 30 seconds being on hold literally feels like 5 minutes. So you want to make sure you hurry, and if it is going to be longer than 30 seconds, make sure you check back in with them and say, hey, I'm sorry for the delay. I'm just checking on something for you. It will be another few seconds. Do you mind holding? So then, you know, you're still checking in on them, and they don't feel like you've just forgotten about them. Another miscellaneous tip, never multitask. We talked about this. I talked about it at the beginning. You don't want to ever feel distracted in your demeanor or your voice, and you don't want to ever sabotage, you know, this lead. This is our, you know, one of the most important things of our business is these phone sale calls, because we could be completely missing the opportunity to ever get these prospects to our property if we don't have good phone sales. And my last tip is just to remember, avoid using slang or terms of endearment or any kind of nicknames. You know, I've been on calls where it's somebody who I've never met, and they're calling me honey or sweetie, and it's just kind of unprofessional, and you don't want to start that off on that note. Some people might not mind it, but others definitely might. So let's avoid those, and try to avoid your filler words. And this takes practice. It's natural for us to try to fill the open, you know, any open space with ums, ahs, like, stuff, things, any kind of those filler words. And so getting in the habit of avoiding those is just always a good thing to work on. So next, I want to talk about listening to phone calls in lead to lease, because it was when I first started at the Edge a few years ago as a leasing manager, I had never had phone sales training, nor had I ever listened to myself on the phone or heard a successful call versus a non-successful one. And so that was like the number one thing that really helped me, was listening to phone calls. And anybody can listen to phone calls. You don't have to be a manager. Anybody can listen to call and lead to leads. And hopefully you've all already done that just, you know, naturally when you check messages or checked missed leads. So I assume you know how, but again, you just go into the lead. You can click incoming calls, and you can click that little icon that is a speaker, and that means that there is a recording of a call. So listening to calls with your leasing manager or manager is super helpful, and listening not only to your own but to others to hear yourself and hear others and hear the pros and cons of each and discuss them. It's just super, super helpful. So I really recommend listening to calls, and on a normal basis too. So next, let's talk about secret shops. So Horizon, as a whole, they randomly do secret shops throughout the year. And if you've never heard of a secret shop, basically what it is there's a company called Ellis, and they will have somebody call and come tour who is evaluating you. And we, you know, do that just to kind of, we want to try to see how our properties are doing, check in on everybody, and we like to reward the good shops. So if you get a 95% or higher on a phone call, you get $50, and if you get 95% or higher on a tour, you get $50. So if you happen to end up being the one who was shopped, you have a potential of earning a $100 bonus on your next paycheck, which is super fun. And then if you get a bad shop and it, you know, continues to happen, then you have, you know, there can be, you can be written up. This is because we do take this seriously, and this is big part of our job. So I wanted to show you one, in case you've never seen one before. Let me pull this up. Okay, so this is an example of a blank shop report. So this will be where all the scores are, and then it will give you a lot of detail. The shopper talks about all, their feelings on things, and if they would have rented from this person, and what they went over, what they gave them, what they talked about, what their tour was about, how they answered their phone, did they ask for the phone number, were they warm and inviting, did the leasing agent identify themselves, all of this that we went over on the guest card, game time card. This is going to be also questions that the shopper is going to fill out so that we know how everything went. And so then it also talks about the community. Was it easy to locate? Were the signs clear? Was it clean? Was the leasing agent professional? Did they smile? Did you shake your hand? It just goes through everything that would be happening on a phone call and tour. Identifying needs. Did they ask about what was important to them? Or was it all the leasing agent just dictating and just chatting? So this, I'll add this to the file library because I don't think it's up there right now. So you guys will always have a copy in case you want to look at it. It's good, though, to read through it and to use this to help you, just as you're preparing and trying to improve your skills as part of the leasing team. And as you can see, it's pretty in-depth here, so you get a good snapshot of how everything went, as well as the phone calls are recorded just like they would be in lead to lease. Talk about fair housing, talk about follow-up. Follow-up is very important. And then kind of overall categories, and at the very bottom, there's a spot where you would go through everything with your manager and kind of evaluate strengths and weaknesses, areas of improvement, goals, and your comments. So that is a sample of a secret shop. So, to conclude, great phone sales can make all the difference in getting that lease. And I'll use one example. Say you are a customer looking for an apartment, and you've looked online, you've narrowed it down to 3 properties, but you have a dog that's a little bit larger, and you want to call and check which one will allow, 50-pound dog. So the first one you call, and the leasing agent answers, and you say, "Hi, I have a dog. He's 50 pounds. Do you guys allow pets?" And the leasing agent says, "Oh, yes, we do. We love pets here." And you say, "Okay, great, thanks. Bye." And so that call number 1. Call number 2, you call, and the leasing agent is friendly and asks for their name, answers their question. "Yes, we accept pets. Would you like to make an appointment?" And the customer says no. They say, "Okay, bye." And then the third one is the customer calls a Horizon property, and you go through the whole guest card. You create that rapport. You sell the property after you've determined their needs, and you really stand out from the other ones. And even if all 3 properties have the same kind of price range and the same types of amenities, you have gone out of your way to really connect with the customer and get them excited about coming to your property. And, by naturally, that customer is going to be much more excited to go to your property than the other 2, and hopefully they'll just come and take a tour right then. And that just would make all the difference, because the other 2 callers were friendly and they answered their questions, but they just let them go without really being a salesperson and answering all their questions along with determining those needs and really getting them excited to come in. And they didn't get any contact information, so there's not even a way for them to follow up. So that is quickly the most successful way to conduct a call. And I'm going to take it off mute so now we can talk about things together, and I can answer any questions, hopefully. Okay, everybody is unmuted unless you've muted yourself. So do we have any questions? You guys are so quiet.
Hey, Aisha, I'm sorry, did you just say you were going to email this out?
Yes, I can email you. I've recorded it. So this will be now a recording that's going to be in Grace Hill for anybody to watch.
Okay.
Do you guys have any other questions or any suggestions or things that were great at your property you want to share with other people?